Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. Before we get too far into the video, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that really helps to get my channel promoted, and I do appreciate that. I also love it when people leave comments, so if you have questions, suggestions for videos, if you want to tell me about how you do things, or some constructive criticism, all those things are really helpful to me, so thank you for that. I wanted to do a beginner-ish project today, so I think I'm going to do no stone, simple kind of stacked flower ring, and I've never done one quite like this, but I've done a few other flower rings. I think this should be a fun one. It's going to have some wire and some sheet and a little silver ball, and let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, kind of 4 layers of stuff. So we'll see how that goes. I think it should be a fun one. Prior to getting started on our project, I wanted to thank some groups of people. First off, my patrons, who are my primary supporters. I really appreciate the community that you all have built over there. It's a great place. I learned so much from you, and I hope that I'm reciprocating as well. It's a really nice place with lots of cool people, so thanks for that. Also appreciate the financial support as well, of course. I have 2 new ones. I wanted to welcome David W. and Bonnie. Thank you for signing up. I hope you find, as I have, that it's a great environment over there. So thank you for signing up. All right, the other group is my YouTube subscribers, and we just passed 15,900, which is amazing. Thank you so much for that. I love it when you guys tell me that you're getting something out of this. It's good to know you're not just screaming into the void about something. So when people tell me that they're inspired to get back into it, or they've sparked some new creativity, or any of that kind of stuff, really makes me feel good, and I hope that I'm helping lots of people. So thanks for that. Thank you also for the super thanks and the buy me a coffees. Those really help with buying the materials, as they have gotten very expensive lately. So all right, well, let's get started on this flower ring. So this is one of the several varieties of silversmithing sketchbooks that I have available on my merch store, if you're interested. I've started putting important information on the backs of them, so they're not only useful as sketchbooks, they're also useful for some conversions and things. This one has fractions of an inch to decimals to millimeters, which I find super useful. Some of the other ones have different information on them. I also have a new product on the merch store. They're aprons with cute sayings on them, so check those out. Everybody needs a good apron for polishing in. You get yourself one of these. I found that it's really helpful for a whole bunch of different reasons. I didn't used to draw things up, but if I ever need to recreate something, I have a sketch of it and how I did it, because I can't always remember. And also, it's got this little nice dot matrix in the background that helps me to keep things symmetrical, because I'm not terribly good at freehand drawing, as you might notice on this one. So, but let's see. So today I'm going to do just basically a plain band with a flower kind of ring mounted on top. So this is probably a good beginner project, I think. It's going to have, the first layer on this is going to be made out of 16 gauge round silver wire, shaped into these shapes like this and soldered together. And I think I'll cup it a little bit, probably. Second layer we're going to make out of some sheet, and I'm going to use 22 gauge, I think. And I'm going to texture it a little bit with one of those texture hammers and see how that turns out, and then we'll solder these discs together. These are going to be, what did I say, 8mm discs, I think I'm punched out of my 22 gauge sheet. And I cut out 5 of those, and then we'll texture them. I did one or two to see how it looked. So for the top layer here, we're going to have 18 gauge round wire again. So this one's see-through, this one's sheet with a texture, this one's see-through on top of this, and then a little silver ball in the middle. So that's how we're going to assemble this thing. 16 gauge round wire is 1.3 millimeters. 22 gauge sheet is 0.66 millimeters, I think. And 18 gauge round wire is 1.02 millimeters, if I remember. And then we'll just make a little ball out of some scrap silver. So, and I think I already cut these pieces of wire here. Let me show you what everything looks like here. So I cut these to be 27 millimeter long pieces roughly, because that's I kind of measured out how long they needed to be to do that, and we'll cut them down if we need to. So I have 5 of those. I probably should have cut 6, but I ran out of 16 gauge, so if I need another one I'll have to make some more 16 gauge. This is the disc I made out of 22 gauge sheet, and I just textured it with my little generic-y kind of texturing hammer here, which has interchangeable heads. These are okay. You can get some cool textures out of them, but they do wear down pretty fast. So we'll be soldering those together like that, overlapping, so it forms kind of like a 5-sided little petal thing. And then we'll mount this other thing on top after we do that out of 18. But I think let's start by shaping these. And I think I'm going to use maybe my bail making pliers to get these started. Let's just file all the ends flat here. If you've never been to my channel before, I use hard silver sheet solder primarily. Occasionally some other stuff, but most of the time it's hard silver sheet solder. And I use a liquid flux that I dribble on with a little dropper bottle. And my torch, which is right here, is a Silversmith model. It's their air acetylene torch, and it's perfect for silversmithing in my opinion. Alright, so I think first I'm going to make these kind of into circular shapes, and then I'll use my my chain nose pliers to kind of flatten the shapes of them a little bit. So let's try that and see how that works. Get off of there. I occasionally get classic migraines, and I had one this morning that is fading away, but I'm still feeling the after effects of it. So if I'm a little less perky, or not that I'm ever perky, but if my affect is weird today, that's because I've got a little headache hangover, sort of. Okay, I'm going to spend a minute shaping these. I don't suppose they all have to be exactly the same. I think that's kind of the shape I want, but I think they're a little bit too big. So let's cut that off a little bit. You wouldn't have to do this necessarily just to these dimensions unless you want to. You could make it bigger or smaller, depending upon what you want. I think that's a little better, probably. So let's cut off just a little bit off the ends of each of these. I think in order to make them more similar to the size that I want them to be, having 2 pieces of 16 side by side like that may push them too far apart. So I may cut out one side of it and just have each side. We'll see how it looks when I get them all made. So let's let's do some experimentation here. Having a live stream for my patrons over on Patreon tonight. I always look forward to that. I get to put some faces with the names, learn a little bit about what they like to do and what their specialties are, what they're interested in learning about. It's fun because I have patrons from all over the world, and it's kind of nice. I have a pretty strong UK following, and I have a few Australian followers, which is nice. It's really nice to chat with such talented people from various places around the world. Oh, that is pretty cool like that. It doesn't even seem too... Maybe if I just file them just a little bit so they're a little bit thinner where they come together, I think that might make them fit just perfectly then. So I'm going to do a little bit of filing to get these how I want them to be. I'm also going to make sure they're pretty flat before I solder these together. So let's do just a little bit of filing on each of these. That's probably good enough. It doesn't have to be beautiful in the middle, I don't think, because we're going to be putting these on top of this one. So let's go ahead and get this lined up and see if we can solder those together. That doesn't look too bad. I'm going to cut myself a little bit of hard silver sheet solder. I have a few pieces there. Let's cut some more. So you can, if you want to, pick up pieces of solder like this and place them if you want to. But I generally tend to use my pick to place them, so do it either way, but this is the way that I normally do it, so I'm going to go ahead and do it that way. But let's go ahead and get this one to flow. So this is how I usually do it. Pick up a little bit of solder. If you're interested in learning how to do that, I'll put a link up there for you. I have a pretty good video about it. Okay, is it perfectly symmetrical? No. But do I want it perfectly symmetrical? Probably not. Okay, so let's find these little discs that I cut out of some 22 gauge sheet. These things come with a bunch of different, interchangeable heads. This is probably the most usable one, I think. So we're just going to So I think what I'll do, I don't want a lot of solder to flow into the pattern, so I'm turning these upside down, and I'm just going to sweat a little tiny bit of solder on the backs of one edge of each of these, and then I'll gradually stack them, so we'll see how that works. I'm not sure if this will work, but we'll give it a try. Just put a little bit of solder on the edge of each of these. Added just a little bit there to make sure we had a solder joint. I'm going to cool this other one because I want to be able to handle it so I can figure out how we're going to position it in here. Because really, doing them like that, we want it to go over the top of this one and underneath this one, right? So we need to do a little bit of bending. Get in there and stay there. Let's see if we can get it to stick down before I bump it or something. cool it off and see how it looks. So we'll solder that on top of that. I think that's going to be cool looking. Now we need to make that top piece. Let's put this in the dapping block here for a second. I'm going to curve it just a little bit. Kind of looks like a columbine. I'm not a flower expert, but I like it. Okay, so let's find some 18 gauge and make those little lobes. I have some laying around here probably. Let's see how big I want those are. Pretty small. Let's do it like this. It's going to be a little big still, I think. Maybe I should go smaller. I could just make those smaller, but I could save those for something else and just find some more 18 gauge and make some smaller ones. As far as size goes, I think that's pretty good. It's because it's gradually decreasing in size. So yeah, let's do that. Okay. I think I'll solder these three together, and then we'll make a little silver ball and solder it right on top, and then we'll start putting these all together. See what the best way to do that would be. Move that out of the way. I haven't caught that on fire once this week. Maybe I should get one of those little signs that says, Chad hasn't caught his book on fire in how many days? Charcoal block here. I'm going to break out my new one that Flying Chef, one of my followers on YouTube, gave me pretty soon here. This one's about had it. Let's just melt that piece and see how big it comes out to be. I imagine if you wanted to, you could put a little bezel set stone or even a prong set faceted stone on the top of this. That would be very pretty, probably. Now that I think about it, probably should have included that in today's plan. I like this idea. Maybe I'll do some other kinds in the future like this one. That just have different shapes and textures and things like that. That might be kind of fun to come up with a whole bunch of different flower looks. There. if you're someone who's familiar with flowers, once I get this done, I'd be curious to have you tell me what kind of flower it looks like, because I'm not good. I can't identify different flowers very well, so it'd be interesting to see what kind of flower this is. Looks the most like. So put that in the comments if you would. Let's see, I don't want to mash that that ball very much, so let me see if I have a wooden peg that I can use to tap that down with. Split it a little bit, but I got it to do what I wanted it to do, which was dome a little bit like that. I feel like there's enough solder on this probably to stick it down. So let me just figure out which configuration I like the best. So I have a feeling once it's down, it's not going to go anywhere. That is not on there very well, so I have some of this hard paste solder. Let's stick some of that underneath there. See how that works. I always forget I have that stuff. And I think let's use that easy paste again. Why not? That was pretty slick. Put a little bit on here. So that solder is kind of hidden behind this other sheet here, so I'm really going to try and focus the heat from around the outside here so that that bottom piece gets hot as well, because it's protected from the flame from above by that sheet. Let's see if we can't get that. When I see the other solder starting to flow, probably a good indication. There we go. Now I'm just going to make a simple plain 8-gauge half-round band. So if you're interested in seeing how to do that, there's a link right up there. I'll make that band and we'll come back and we'll put it all together. So I filed a flat spot right where the solder joint was on the band, and so there should be some solder there. I also filed the bottom of that flower head flat. I made a decision about where I wanted the line of the thing to go because it's not perfectly symmetrical since it's a flower. So we'll see how that goes. There should be enough solder to stick it down. I have some extra if I need some. But let's flux it. And this softer surface I'm using here is called a magnesia block. It allows you to kind of push things in a little bit. It's both advantageous and it causes problems at the same time, because in order to get silver solder to flow nicely, on silver anyway, you need to get the entire piece up to the solder flow point, which in the case of hard silver sheet solder like I've been using, or hard silver paste solder like I've been using, it's about 1450 degrees. So having part of this kind of pushed into the pad insulates it from the heat and makes it hard to get some parts of the piece up to that temperature like you want it to be. So, and you want everything to reach that temperature, otherwise you don't get a solid bond. Let's see if we got it how we want it. A little flower ring. Okay, I will pickle that and we'll get it polished up and show you the final result. So I got my ring polished up, but I wanted to talk about what I did off camera, because this is the original one that I did, and I was trying to get a real three-dimensional looking flower, and looking at it, I kind of soldered these all down together so they're all kind of cupped in the same way, and that did not produce the three-dimensionality that I wanted it to have. And so I made some changes. I remade the ring, but I kept the bottom layer kind of flat. I cupped up the sheet layer, and I also kind of made the petals a little bit more wavy. And this last piece, I used a little bit thicker wire. I used the same kind of wire, 16 gauge for this up here. Soldered them to a ball, and I also really bent those up and flattened the ends a little bit to make it a little more distinctive. So there's a lot more, if you look at it from the side, there's a lot more depth to it, and it looks a lot more like a real flower. So I think that's an improvement. Tell me what you think. This one will either scrap or put in the bargain bin if I polish it up. But I really like that one. I think that turned out nice. That was not a terribly hard project, so it might be a good, build your skills kind of project for beginners. But yeah, I'll take some better pictures and put them at the end. Okay, well, that was the stacked flower ring video. I hope you enjoyed that one. If you did, make sure to hit the like button before you leave. And take a moment, if you would, and go check out my main channel page. I have well over 400 videos now. I've been doing this at 3 per week for about 3 years. And so there's quite a catalog of material there to choose from. I think there's almost certainly something you can find over there that will interest you if you enjoyed this video. So check those out, and then make sure to subscribe to my channel. I'd love it if you did. And don't forget to hit the video description down below. There's some important links there. There's a link to my ebook if you want to get the guide to 2023's YouTube videos. That's a great way to support the channel. There's a link to my merch store, which is where you can get those nice design idea books or one of the new aprons. And there's also a link to my Patreon if you want to find out a little bit more about that community. So again, thank you for coming. Take care. Happy silversmithing.